Welcome back. Today, we're going to be playing some more Shadowdark. And while I set up, I'll go over the things I'll be using. Of course, my quintessential solo Game Master's Guide, I'll put over here. The Shadowdark book itself goes over on this side of the table. I have my Perilous Badlands notebook, which I'm going to open up to our current location. Have my little Torson mini that I've had for years. It's just a dwarf mercenary. Sit there. And I have a map and my character card, which I got from the Runes zine. This thing right here. The creator, James Floyd Kelly, ran a Kickstarter for it. And with the backers, he sent a bunch of little character cards for Shadowdark. And of course, my trusty role-playing notebook, which I have lots of things on. I'll set that up. And of course, can't play a game without some dice. The main goal for today is to sort of familiarize everyone with what I'm doing, how I like to do it, and what my sort of goals are for what I'm doing here. And I also, of course, have my Shadowdark Game Master's Guide, or screen, rather, which, personally, I would love to see this while I play, but I use the backside quite a lot, so I keep that off to the side here as well. Well, welcome to the amazing Axor, everybody. And today I want to sort of welcome everybody to the channel and to what I'm doing here, which for right now is going to be playing some Shadowdark with my character Torson. A quick recap is Torson is currently a squire of a fighter, level 2, and he is of the lawful alignment, comes from a town called Oslin in a region known as the Perilous Badlands, which rumors have said is mostly controlled by a malevolent sorcerer by the name of Mervenevent, the Malicious. And what we have going on right now is Torson had been adventuring around the area, kind of getting into some trouble here and there, eventually losing his companion, Axidor, which I had touched base on the intro video. And we have him stumbling around the mountains, also known as the Oracle's Teeth. The Oracle's Teeth are these mountains right here. And he's been stumbling around, getting lost, and unable to leave the hex that he's in. Interestingly enough, the check to leave a hex does get easier over time, but it is intelligence based, and unfortunately Torson has an intelligence of 7, which is a -2. So he's not great at intelligence based checks, which is interesting when it comes to him trying to figure things out. And that has come up a couple of times in the past. I have opted not to create a new character only just because I'm enjoying what is happening with Torson and the world that I've created already. So we're just going to roll with that. The raw footage that I have here is basically going to be exactly that. I don't count myself as an editor of any sort or even a capable videographer. So I'm just going to go with how I always play by myself is I talk out loud. Previously, I have always done I've done recordings with my voice recorder. But I figured I'd do this and just have a video log of my gameplay to share with the world and see if anyone wants to enjoy it and come along with me on my journey of solo role playing. I might touch base on other games and systems down the road, but right now I'm just really enjoying Shadowdark. So with that, let us pick up where Torson was last seen. And how I play Shadowdark is I loosely use the rule set in Shadowdark, which is D20, roll high, add modifiers, and check the result. And as for the GM side of things, I utilize the Solo Game Master's Guide and the tables and the oracles in the back of the book. And that's basically it. I don't utilize too much else. The tables within this amazing tome have given me so much already. A few things I've gone to other tables for are the Perilous Wilds for naming of regions. But other than that, the Solo's Game Master's Guide and the Shadowdark core rulebook are all that I've ever really needed. So with that, let's change the scene and the tone and move into a Minotaur maze where we find Torson walking down a hall with a newly found curious companion, of which we don't know the name and we don't know their overall goal or anything. We just know that they're a Minotaur. And I rolled the reaction for this Minotaur before, and it was started off as suspicious. And we had found out through a back and forth of a few charismatic rolls and some sort of unsure advances in his posture and everything, that Torson was able to sort of, by sheer luck and a really good natural 20 roll, change the attitude of that Minotaur into curious. And while we find Torson lost in the mountains, he has trying to use this situation for, one, some good solid rest, but also possibly learning a new language, which is something that you can do in the game. You can learn something and learning a new skill. And Torson is going to utilize this time of not knowing where he is in the greater scheme of the world, but finding an opportunity with this Minotaur to learn Thanian, which is the language that the Minotaurs speak in the Shadowdark. And we know that to learn anything in Shadowdark, it starts off pretty hard, but over time, it becomes easier. But you can only do one roll per downtime activity, so effectively once per day, if you stay at that place, or once per visit. So currently the DC of a learning roll for Torson right now is 18, which effectively means that for him to learn anything in this particular instance would have to be a natural 20. I had someone ask me, and I forget where, and I forget whom, how I'm going to do the real-time torch timer in Shadowdark. Now, when I have been playing up until now, I've been using a D12 to indicate basically parts of the hour, and basically every action that he does ticks up the timer. And after 12 actions, the timer goes out. And whatever light source he has needs to be refreshed. Going forward, hopefully in the mail, I'm going to be getting a sand timer, and I'm going to be utilizing that. And honestly, right now, it's an introduction, and we're not actually playing the game. So when I'm sort of pausing for exposition's sake, I will give myself a little leeway, and I'll actually pause the timer, or I will fast forward the timer if need be, and that's basically it. But honestly, I might just use it as an hour timer of gameplay, and then that's all that I get to do in a session. But we'll see going down the road. I guess let's roll. Let's have our first roll of this particular session. And what we need here is Torson. Gotta place these somewhere. Torson is walking down this long maze-like corridor with this new acquaintance, if you will. And they start their back and forth. Torson is expecting sort of this beast creature to sort of turn on him. The initial meeting was very tenuous and suspicious and on edge for both of them. So even though they're both sort of okay with each other's company, they're still one hand on each of their weapon. Torson on his bastard sword, and the Minotaur on his great axe. And the Minotaur's great axe has these ribbons falling off of them. And he's gonna effectively start this conversation with this Minotaur. And I'm going to ask the Oracle if this particular Minotaur is the leader of this structure, of this maze space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a D100, and I'm going to say that it is likely, because I had previously described that the great axe that the Minotaur was holding had like ribbons off of them with like little gems attached to them, so it seemed important enough. So let us say that it's likely. So I need a 26 or greater on a 2d10. Let's roll 2d10. And this Oracle system is actually from Ironsworn, another fantastic game system for solo play. But let's roll. I got an 8 and a 6. So we got 86. So 86 is definitely above 26. So this Minotaur is the leader. So I'm going to just write Minotaur leader. Okay. So we need some sort of name, which I will probably fill out later. I really don't want to like look up, through lots of tables and stuff on camera. I take a long time with those, so I can actually come up with those names later. And so he's the leader, and I'm going to say that his disposition currently is still curious, but mixed with suspicious, like an off-putting, like, I don't know what is up with this dwarf, but he's not attacking me, and let's see where this goes. I don't know anyone else outside of my own clan. Who is this adventurer and why is he here? And that's basically the stance of the Minotaur right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Torson roll his d20, add his -2 to this intelligence roll for the opportunity to learn some of the Minotaur's language. We got a 16, -2 is 14, which does not meet the DC 18. So the next time it's actually going to be 16. So we did not succeed in that fashion. And the scene plays out effectively. A somewhat frustrated Torson, being the sailor that he was, not used to the mountains and not used to the cultures and the languages of the mountains, never really seeing a Minotaur before, struggling with the language of the Minotaur, and just not quite getting there. Spends basically the rest of the evening trying his best to understand what is being said to him, and he's trying and failing to mimic as well. So we come to a time where he has the opportunity for actual downtime. We have the Minotaur Maze complex, which I could draw out, and in fact, I'm going to. So nice. All right, so we got this maze, and the entrance was this stone arch with intricate designs. You're not going to be able to see this, but that's fine. This is mostly for me. And we have each square here is where he has been. And I'm going to say that in each of these, there is a few other Minotaurs doing their thing. And because he is with the leader, I'm going to say that I'm just going to give a general charisma, or a general reaction roll plus his charisma, but I'm going to actually do this with sort of, not advantage, because a charisma modifier is added to 2d6s. So let's roll 2d6s. And the general attitude of the populace. And I'm going to say that I'm going to roll 3d6 and drop the lowest. And that will be how the Minotaur is actually aiding in the general, the attitude of the populace. They see this new dwarf, very odd that they see this guy, but he is with the leader, so maybe it'll be all right. All right, we're dropping the lowest, so we got we're getting rid of the 2, so we got 9, and Torson's charisma modifier is a +1. So we got a 10 total for curious. So everyone is curious about Torson and why he's attempting to and failing to talk to their leader. And now, he can't quite carouse right now. One, I don't think he has a lot of money, because he left town spending a lot of money yet. Well, he has 116 gold. I'm wondering, does this Minotaur location have any sort of trade hub or anything that would necessitate, like, merchants or anything like that? Being an insular society, of Minotaurs out in the mountains, I'm going to say that is a small chance that there is a place to actually exchange gold. But let's roll these d10s. We got 39, small chance, so 90, no. 91 is what I needed. So no, there's no bar here to exchange gold or anything like that. But there is like a place for food and drink and stuff like that. And Torson is going to attempt to exchange money for those services. I'm going to say that it's going to be a charisma check of 18 because it is extreme. It is very difficult to do this thing. And on a success, he will be able to give some money to these people for rations, or so he doesn't have to use his own rations. And because they're curious, it's more likely. So I'm going to rule that because of the curious nature of it, of the populace, and he goes up to what looks to be a stall that has like this big old urn of like, well, it smells like it might be alcohol, and Torson is willing to have some of that. So he goes up to to this other Minotaur, excuses himself from the Minotaur leader, and effectively asks, "Hey," and he jangles his bag of gold. "You want to exchange gold for grog?" Gold for grog, right? And the Minotaur cocks his head a little bit, very, curious like, but also, "What did you just say? I have no idea what you're talking about." So he's going to make this roll, and charisma is +1. So if he succeeds, he gets the grog for the gold. If he fails, I'm going to say that he just doesn't get it, and he will have to use his own rations to sleep for the night, which I think I have 3 rations left. So let us roll. 18 + 1 is 19, so he does succeed. And he jangles some money, and I believe there is a general sense of success. He takes out a few gold pieces and hands it out and holds it out. Like, "Here, take it." And he attempts to wait for the hand, and he holds his hand out with the gold in, and motions, "I'd like to drink. I'd like to drink." And with that, it's enough that the Minotaur goes, "Okay." And then he pours him a really big, thick, half horn of something, and he's able to imbibe. I am of the ilk that I love how foreign alcoholic beverages on new adventures can do things. So I'm going to have him, he succeeded on getting it, and I'm going to say that it counts for his ration for the evening. So he won't need to spend his rations to spend the night. But I'm going to have him roll a constitution check to see if he can't withstand the effects of this really strong grog. Again, if he fails, I think he's going to probably pass out, and I will probably roll to see if it's poisoned or not, or poisoned for him. So let's do a con check. We got a 12. Oh, you know what? I can't actually use that roll because I did not set the DC for this. 12 would be normal. I'm actually going to put this as hard at 15. So 15 will be the DC, and I'll have to re-roll. I actually do that a lot. I sort of roll preemptively before I set the DC. It's something I need to work on as a soloist. But here we go. 15 is the DC for the con check. He got 11 plus 2 for his con is 13. Does not meet the DC for the grog. So he is chugging it, and it is a substantial horn of grog, and he is wobbling back and forth, and then the next thing he knows, he is waking up the next morning with a pounding headache. And I'm gonna say that for the rest of the day, unless he gets some healing, he's going to be rolling certain things at a disadvantage. Wisdom and intelligence, and basically everything except for dexterity and charisma. Everything else is going to be at a disadvantage until he gets some sort of healing or it's out of his system. And I don't really know when that's going to occur yet. But, so the next day, he is meted with a slap on the back, basically sort of as he's stretching his arms and waking up. He had stumbled, or maybe somebody put him on a pile of he hopes was hay and not where people go to the bathroom. And he wakes up in the morning and he yawns, and then he feels a slap on the back by the Minotaur leader with a grunt and a big old smile on his face. Big old silver ring on his nose too. And with that, I'm going to say that he is going to, with that antics and the attempt to exchange the gold with, for the grog and him passing out, the demeanor toward him is going to be, unless he does anything, going to be curious or friendly. And I guess with the Minotaur leader, the current sort of take and attitude toward Torson is going to be friendly, and that's why he's slapping him on the back in sort of a guffaw. And again, in that guttural language that he does not understand, is saying something akin to, well, that was hilarious. Thanks for the entertainment last night. Man, I love these NPCs sometimes. So, I think what we're going to do here is I think I'm going to have Torson attempt to learn the language again with that DC of 16 with disadvantage. So I don't think it's going to happen, but I think this is going to be a day of him with the culture of the Minotaurs. And at this point, I do want to find a name. And I do have a good book for that. I think I'm going to use Xanathar's Guide. It's a really, really good book for names. I'm going to use I gotta go with the classic for the Minotaur, a male Greek name. So let us roll really quick. 27. Diomedes. So the name of the Minotaur leader is Diomedes. So Diomedes is talking to Torson. And in kind of a grandeur or a grandiose in a sort of, this is the market. This is where, he's showing him the place. He's showing him around. And so Torson is sort of learning the space a little bit better, and he's talking with him, talking with Diomedes, and he learns his name, Diomedes, Diomedas, he's learning how to say it in Thanian, and this whole time he is trying real hard to learn, but that headache is pounding. So we need to roll at disadvantage. So I'm going to roll 2d20 and then take the worst result. Well, I got a natural 20, but I got to use the 10. Oh, man. What a start to this day, huh, Torson? Well, that's an 8. And again, he spends another day, that whole day, culturally immersed with these Minotaurs, and he's he's just struggling, so he does not succeed at that. The next DC is going to be 14, and that will be the next time he does that. But I think what Torson really wants to do now is he is going to excuse himself from the Minotaur compound and explore a bit, knowing that he's been around these mountains a little bit. He's been lost trying to leave, but he's been there, he's been days of travel. He's been out and about for 6 days now, and he's been in the mountain region for like 4 of those days. So he knows this hex pretty well, and I believe the intelligence check to leave was 12. And if memory serves, I think he's down to an intelligence check of 8 right now to leave. Now, he's been rolling extremely low, but now it's at a disadvantage. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to have him sort of travel around and try to figure out a way out, but he wants to come back. So these hexes are 6 miles, but he's in the mountains, and he's in mountains that are pretty steep, and it's going to take him a full day to leave the hex itself. But because he's been here a while, it's going to take less than that. So it's going to take about 6 hours, and so this is an unsafe region, and per the rules, I'm going to roll every 3 hours for an encounter. So we're going to roll twice during his journey through the mountains. And I have set the time of the year around late summer. But the mountains here are pretty high up. And off in the distance, he can see pretty far out a very large, craggy mountain that is capped with a permanent white cap. And he knows that to be the Oracle's mountain. And there is a legend that there is an oracle on top of that mountain, effectively a wise person. But he's never heard anyone go there, come back, or anything. It's just a rumor that is part of the lands that he lives in. And so he wants to try to find a way up there, but he needs to travel into that hex first. So mechanically, what we're going to do is we're going to roll the D6 twice for the 6 hours that he's going to travel through this hex. Then we're going to roll 2d20, take the worst for intelligence check to leave at a DC of 8. And then he's going to travel back. So another 2 checks. So that's what we're going to do here. it's kind of what I do. I'm a very procedural player, and then I narrate when I feel like it. So we're going to roll twice on 2. So the first 3 hours of a travel go unimpeded. The mountains are they are being kind to him, and he's going through some familiar areas, and he's trying to find another way out of the space. And another 3. So the 6 hours to go by, and he's coming into an area where he doesn't really know. So he's trying to find a way out and into a new hex. So let's do that. 15 and a 12. So minus 2 is 10. The DC is 8. So finally succeeds. Now, I have not had him succeed in about 3 sessions of gameplay for myself off camera. So this is new to me. This is only his second hex that he's been into. So we have here a special hex that he wants to go into. So I'm going to say that he found a path to that hex. All right, so path to special mountain found. Okay, the path to the special mountain has been found, and he knows that he wants to come back to the maze and talk to Diomedes. Diomedes. I think I'm not great at voices. Sometimes I do it in my head, and then when I speak it, it sounds completely different. I'm sure people can relate. Diomedes. So Torson and Diomedes are probably going to meet up later, but he has to get back first. So to travel back, even though he's been on this path again before, it's still the mountains, it's still unsafe, he might run into things, so let us roll 2 more times on the return trip. And what I will say is that if he takes the same path back out, I'll only roll once. So it's not quite safe, but it is it's not quite safe, but it's between unsafe and safe. So like I don't know what that would be. All right. 6. So the first 3 hours back. Ooh, you know what though? I just thought about the mechanic or the necessity of sleep here. He did take, you know what? He's going to have to rest out in the wilds here. You know what? He wants to get home. He wants to get back to the maze. He only got 3 hours left, but he's been traveling for more than 8 hours now. So he's going to have to do a con check at disadvantage. Yeah. And the DC here is, I think it's just 12 for travel. I'm going to double check real quick. I can't remember the page. Overland travel. Exiting. Con check to push further. Okay, so I guess it's up to me on how many of these I need to roll. They must pass an increasing con check. So I think the first check, even though it's at disadvantage, I think the first check is going to be normal. So 12. 12 con check. And if they fail, they're going to have to pass out. They're going to have to stop. All right, so come on, Torson. We got a 10. Oh, we got to do disadvantage, but yeah. 10 plus 2 is 12. So that, whew, okay, so that still does make it, barely. So he is able to push on for the next 3 hours. All right, encounter check. A 3. So he, 3. So he does make it back to camp, but it's extremely late. Extremely late. So much later? No. It is so late that he just sees a guard at the at the entrance, sort of cocked back on the entrance with a great axe against the stone, kind of half sleeping. And Torson, not wanting to cause a scene, goes, "May I re-enter?" And the guard sees him, and because of the antics of the previous day, and everything, he does gutter. He does say something that, again, Torson does not understand, and then motions for him to go back inside. So Torson goes back inside the maze structure, the compound. I'm gonna have to call this something too. And he goes in, and everyone, you know what? Is anyone awake? I'm gonna say that is a small chance. So a small chance. Is anyone awake? 70. No, no one is awake. So it's just the guard. Everyone's sleeping. So he can't exchange gold for more food or grog or anything like that. So he's going to have to utilize his rations. So he's down to 2 rations now. Oops. 2 rations. And in fact, the previous day he had used his torch until he came into the maze. In my head, this maze does have torches from like here and here, like not everywhere. That's just my own ruling for right now. And when he goes into hostile territories, they will have no torches, and the whole darkness and everything will be more in line with the narrative. But right now, the narrative dictates that Torson needs to interact with NPC type situations, so torches are kind of not really necessary. So we have him eating his bread, and his stale bread, and his water from his rations, and finding the same spot where he woke up from, seeming to be that is where they are okay with him staying. And indeed, that place is empty. And then he crashes to sleep, exhausted. And with that, I think I'm going to end today's video session. And I hope people enjoy the story. I hope people will come back when I post again. And until then, may all your rolls be critical.